So on behalf of the Town Council, we would like to recognize you this evening for everything you've done for us, and we have a proclamation for you that I'm going to read. It's not too long. Okay. So it's in recognition of Bob Huron, a Rocky Hill Town historian. And whereas Bob has created and maintains an extensive archive of historical documents, including historical papers, title searches, genealogy information, and other documents which he provides to the Rocky Hill Historical Society. And since 2017, Robert has served in the role of Rocky Hill Town Historian. And during his time as historian, he wrote 3 books on Rocky Hill's history and has 2 more written and ready to publish. He also authors monthly articles about the town's history in the Rocky Hill Life. And Robert has done extensive research in response to numerous research requests and has participated in various town committee meetings to provide a historical perspective. And after 8 years as Rocky Hill Town Historian, and after recently celebrating his 81st birthday, Robert has decided to tender his resignation. So on behalf of the entire town of Rocky Hill, we call upon everyone to join us in saying thank you, because you have proved to be an invaluable resource when it comes to researching and documenting all things historical in our community. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And happy birthday. You may, and I know that Representative Wood has something to say as well, so I'm going to call Representative Wood up, and then maybe after you could say something.
Don't go anywhere yet, Bob.
No, just
Okay.
continue.
More citations coming. Bob, this is from the entire General Assembly, and it says, Robert Huron for his outstanding contribution to preserving Rocky Hill's history. As the town's first historian since 2017, Bob's research and books, including Hidden History of Rocky Hill and Rocky Hill in World War I, have deepened our understanding of our past. His dedication during the pandemic, through weekly Facebook posts and quarterly Rocky Hill Life articles, was invaluable. Bob's responsiveness to public and support for local missions highlights his commitment. We celebrate his legacy in documenting our history. Congratulations on your retirement, Bob, and thank you for your exceptional service. Signed the entire General Assembly, including the President, the Speaker of the House, and the Secretary of the State.
Oh, yeah. Okay, a few comments. Well, I have only 2. I'm not going to keep you long. When I first got involved with the Historical Society, Ed Ciccarello can vouch for this, I said it was a sleepy little history club, and there didn't seem to be much commitment to it. If you go in there today, you're going to find very energetic people working really hard, doing some really interesting things. We have a resident archaeologist now, for example. I think that's great. Oh, yeah, I don't want to start listing everything. There is a ton of stuff. I know we do this on public access cable. If you like history, come on down to the Historical Society. I think you'll find great people there and a lot of interesting things to do. The other comment is about retirement. Ed and I have talked about this, and I'm thinking of myself more as the historian emeritus than the retired historian, because I've been working harder this month than I have since I started working as the historian. So you can't get rid of me this easily. I'm sorry. I'm sticking around and I'm going to keep doing my work.
Fantastic. Okay, we're going to move on to public comment. This portion of the meeting is specifically set aside for comments from the public, who are asked to limit their comments to 2 minutes. Any person interested in providing public comments via email should email publicmeetings@rockyhillct.gov prior to 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting to have their public comment read into the record. And although it's not on the agenda, I will say that we will not feel badly for everyone in the crowd who wants to leave now, who came to see Bob. Now is a good time. All right, is there anyone from the public who wishes to be heard?
Yes. Hi, Ed Ciccarello, 40 Riverview Road. I am the current president of the Rocky Hill Historical Society, and I want to share our congratulations and thankfulness for Bob, all Bob's tenure and everything he's done. I want to thank the town also for acknowledging him. Bob is the first official town historian in Rocky Hill. That was 2017. There were unofficial historians prior to Bob, people like June Cook, people like David Cook. Rod Wilscam was an unofficial, but, you know, the Historical Society is there. I do want to say a couple of things that bother me about Bob, though. I know it's always great to laud an occasion like this, but some of the things that, well, actually maybe bother Bob about most people, or some people, is that they don't put their names on things that they write. Have you ever seen that? You might find something that you're reading and it's a very, very insightful, but you don't know who wrote it, or maybe the date. And the other thing is citing sources. You know, we write history and it sounds beautiful and it looks fantastic, and where did that come from? You know, so those are two things that I guess annoy me a little bit, but I'm very thankful for. I do want to acknowledge Bob's work on Center Cemetery. Without his work, many years of inventorying what we have at Center Cemetery would not exist. Right now, you all know we have a website where we have wayfinding. You could find any person's grave just by looking at a website or your phone. You already mentioned his books, but he has been very instrumental in policy for the Historical Society. When I first started, Bob was there just a little before me, and we both went in and we looked at our second floor, which had over 400 boxes, and none of them were numbered. So Bob and I got to know each other real well, because every Thursday we came in for a couple hours and we went through every box. The work that he's done for us and for the town will only be really known probably 50 years from now or 100 years from now, because if I say the name Rufus Griswold to you, some of you might know him, some of you might not. But without Rufus Griswold in 1902, he died in 1902. Without his history, we would know literally almost nothing about early Rocky Hill. Sherman Adams is another person. Henry Stiles, Andrew Twaddle, all of these people are historians. You might not know their names, but they exist, and we know Rocky Hill history because of that. So 100 years from now, 200 years from now, thankfully God will keep our planet turning and everything green and everything, and we'll see Robert C. Herron. Thank you, Bob.
When am I allowed to say anything I want?
You have 2 minutes, and the most important thing is you state your name and your address for the record, and then you can talk about whatever you like.
My name is George Hallahan, 11 Henry Street. I'm pretty upset on some of the things done with this town the past few months. Number one, it's a kind of a private situation. Planning and zoning took our solar off our roof last Wednesday. It's been on there for a year. Haven't been able to turn it on because they're punishing me. They've been lying to my mother. She's 88 years old. She's had chest pains over this. They're doing a lot of damage to us, and they're not going to get away with it. And I went to the town manager. He's a joke. He's very rude to me, everything else, but I got higher people coming in this town to take care of some people here that have really done us wrong. 3, we're getting sued left and right. I've been checking on the lawsuits. We've got quite a few. They've been getting paid off in our tax money. I feel the people who have caused these problems for the lawsuits should pay for them themselves or get out, period. I want to see the police department They need some more help. I talked to Mr. Klett tonight. They need more help. We got holidays coming up. And one of the reasons why we have a no chase thing in this town. So they start to chase them, they get out of here. They know it. I've heard it in town, how they get away and take off. I've heard many of them talk, I got away, ha. They really didn't. But anyways, block the exits. We have more police, just block all the highway exits, and you'll pretty much catch them, trap them like rats. The other stuff that's been done, very upset, is on Main Street, those buildings. Someone's on crack, whoever put those buildings, the three of them on Main Street, they're not even 20 feet from the road. That's really ridiculous, and the town manager had approved some of that, said it's okay. Really? That is dangerous. Who's gonna pay for or put up with the lawsuit that this town's gonna have some, God forbid, if someone gets killed during the snowstorm? You're gonna open the front door and you're gonna get snow in your living room. That's not fair. So anyways, my thing in this town is the police department, ambulance, and fire department. We need all the people we can get on their form, so we have more people, many people, with all these apartments coming in this town to live in here. We need to be secure. We're secure, but we need to be better. Stuff like that. So that's basically it, but the town manager needs changing because we're paying him and he's not doing a good job as far as I'm concerned. That's my opinion. But I'm very upset with the way he acted. Very upset. And the mayor, Miss Mayor, I will talk to you later, please. I have some stuff to talk to you about, okay? Thank you for listening to me. See you later. Oh, I'm sorry, one more question, real quick. The fire department thing on where this property is, they had Department 3 on the screen. They were talking about Department 2, okay? That's a smaller property. I had suggested, I'm all for the fire department thing. That property is too small. And New Britain Avenue is not the place to go at all. Go on the Building 3, okay, Company 3, on the corner of Old Forge. That's perfect. They got plenty of property there, and they're out in the open. I'm all for having them here, but that's the wrong area. That's all. Period. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard? Okie dokie.
Madam Mayor, before you go on, if I could just make some adjustments to the agenda for this evening. First, I'd like to move new business item, presentation, community resilience, and building report up before the subcommittees. And I'd also like to take the two items off the consent agenda and move them in as new business items C and D.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Where's Jeff Levine?
He was supposed to
Video.
be remote.
The video's not on. Sorry, Jeff, if you can hear us, our videos don't see you. All right, let's do appointments and resignations.
Not on this side, thank you. We do have one, Madam Mayor. We have John Roderick, who was member of the Sustainable Rocky Hill. He has resigned as he has moved out of town. And we are recommending Bhaskar Pandya, who is an alternate on the committee, to be a full member.
Perfect, thank you. Going on to the approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from October 21st.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
One abstention, I was, yeah.
Just before we go to the presentation, Ray, is Jeff Levine on the,
Yeah, he's getting zoomed in now.
okay,
Yeah, we have to give him a few minutes.
okay, thank you. Okay, well, let's start our presentation. New business A, presentation, Community Resilience Building Report. Dr. Adam Welchel, Director of Science, Connecticut Nature Conservancy.
Along with Kim Ritchie, Town Planner.
Welcome. Hi.
I want to introduce Adam Whitero. He's with the Nature Conservancy. We have undertaken a community resilience building workshop, part of which will be the resulting report will be included as part of our plan of conservation and development for next year. Adam and his team from the Nature Conservancy were instrumental in bringing together, along with the core team's assistance, people that are staff people from the town hall, whether they be department heads or together people from utility companies, Department of Transportation, the VA. We had a really broad-based team approach to the project. We also had in distinct groups, and Adam will probably go into more detail, but it was a great experience, and we thank you for.
So much. My name's Al Chel. I'm a director of the Nature Conservancy, and I run a program called Community Resilience Building, and we provide a process to municipalities in not only Connecticut, throughout New England. There's no charge to the municipalities, and we find people like them, and we try to find people, your manager, to say yes to having us come in and provide a 3-hour, in this case, where, as Kim mentioned, we were able to bring together a lot of folks, department head, number of utilities, some residents, to talk about what kind of hazards, natural hazards, are a concern here in Rocky Hill, and then work through a process to identify strengths that you already have in your community, identify vulnerabilities, and then use our time together to identify actions that will reinforce the strengths you already have in town and try to reduce some of the vulnerabilities. So it was a fruitful effort. Everybody had a time. I live in Wethersfield, and I've had a chance to work with over 5,000 across New England, and I have to say, and it's not just because I'm standing in front of the council, Rocky Hill stands out as one of the most impressive events that I've been part of. And I think largely it has to do with your strengths, where it came up again and again that everybody in this community cares one another, looks at one another, values the quality of life that is available here in Rocky Hill, whether it's education, social services, the open space that you have available to residents. There certainly were some vulnerabilities that came up. I should mention that it's all in the report, and I think you've all received pieces, so you can dive in deeper. I hope you will. All your valuable staff put a lot of time and energy into this, and we were very privileged and thankful to be able to come and provide it. There were some pretty serious vulnerabilities that you need to dive in and take a look at. I see it across a lot of municipalities, using your community's word, over-reliance on volunteerism and the risk of people getting burnt out, and then couple that with there's not a ready supply of new volunteers in the younger generations coming up. So it's a story I hear again and again, but I have to say your strengths outweigh your vulnerabilities. But I do want to mention, if I may, just a couple of the key priority actions that came out of this, just so you have a sense as to what you might hear from your town manager and others going forward. Forgive me, I've got a couple highlighted sections. There was a priority that was identified, and it reads like this: establish a committee to generate new, creative, and different approaches to encouraging and securing additional volunteers for service across Rock Hill, including participation on boards, commissions, and committees, as well as your fire department. I know you hear this all the time. Second is to conduct a town-wide stormwater drainage and associated utility study that identifies the current capacity, both undersized and adequate, and conditions of those systems, using outputs of the study to prioritize projects and work to implement over time. And I know you'll be hearing about this from your town manager if you haven't already. This came out as a real priority action to get smart about, a study has not been done since the 1970s, so this would be updating given the events, longer events have been in the last 8 or so. And one final one, and there's probably about 12 priority actions in here that you can look at. And as Kim mentioned, a lot of these will be rolled into, amplified, or highlighted into your plan of conservation development, so you'll see them again. This one was interesting. It's opportunities to amplify and expand the current social services offered with additional funding, with a focus on engagement with and care for issues such as mental health, housing, food insecurity, among other critical issues in Rocky Hill. So It's in partnership with Sustainable Connecticut. It was initiated through your Sustainable Rocky Hill Task Force to bring this to you. I want to applaud them for saying yes to us and being able to provide this service free of charge for Rocky Hill. We have had the privilege of working with Glastonbury and Portland. We're always looking for more communities to work with. So if you know anybody in Cromwell, maybe Weathersfield, I don't know, maybe Newington, share the word, and we'd love to work with them as well. So that's all I had to say today. I just want to thank you once again. Was there anything I should say, Kim, or Ray, or would you like me to say something different?
Actually, this exercise really, really helped us open our eyes and come together as far as a cooperative approach and a single vision. I think we talked about during the past couple of budget sessions what we need to do. I think Jeff is on his way. And Adam made us work very hard. Yeah. Right. This workshop was, I wasn't really thrilled with a Zoom, workshop. I wanted a live workshop, but this really worked out well. It did. Much appreciated.
It really was an eye-opener. Even though we weren't meeting in person, the breakout rooms were productive. And I think that we got a lot of information and a lot of things to do. So I really thank you for that opportunity, and I thank our task force as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank
And
you.
we will recommend it to other towns for
That's
sure.
fine. Yeah, and have you back in 5 years, and we'll see. We'll take a look at
progress,
your
yeah.
do a grade, see how you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. We have a question.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
You've done this in 500 towns. You made a couple of recommendations about the volunteerism, which we've heard before.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing as a solution to that? Because we've all kicked that around.
Yeah.
The 9 of us up here are also volunteers.
Yeah. Yeah, it's usually much more, it's nothing is in isolation, right? It's, you get into usually it revolves around, actually I remember Portland specifically, they were really trying to change their whole demographics in town. So they put a lot of emphasis on trying to upgrade their park system to provide things that would attract young families, splash things of that nature to kind of change the dynamic there to make it attractive to younger families. In isolation without considering affordable housing, the little A and the big A of affordable housing. And, that leads to food availability, those kind of things. So it has to be kind of a holistic approach. But the volunteerism, people ask me, so what should people do to get prepared for more extreme weather, or if you're willing to, thinking about down the road about climate change and things like that. People automatically think about, well, we need bigger bridges, infrastructure stuff, bridges, culverts, roads, things like that, and being better prepared for flooding and heat and extreme weather. But honestly, it really gets down to that community fabric in my mind and volunteerism. If people aren't volunteering and contributing their time and energy to making the place where they live better, then nothing else is going to really happen or matter. So I'm trying to cleverly avoid your question because I don't know.
Right.
But it's got to be systemic. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we saw again and again in here is excellent schools, geographically well positioned, not in Hartford, but near a major metropolitan area. Whether you like it or not, your emergency management folks aren't too excited about 91 and getting called, the increase in call volume and increase in having to be out there on the highway. But yet it does provide some additional access for visitors, which might, encourage your economic base to be in a position where you have, more money to do more things. But there was also a lot of additional housing that was being put into place in Rocky Hill, more so than some of the neighboring communities. So that might present an opportunity if it's presented in a way that isn't perceived as an additional impact on the limited time I have with my family. So trying to make it exciting and encouraging and, maybe social media and those kind of things. I'm a little too old for that, but you know what I'm saying? It needs to be attractive in some way.
Sure.
And with the new folks coming in, perhaps, there's a way to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
You don't look satisfied.
No, it's just, it's something we've heard before.
Yeah, I know.
It's really hard to
Yeah.
fill a gap with volunteers. And I think in the report, you even noted that with the number of apartment complexes,
Yeah.
people are kind of more temporary
Yeah,
and less likely to
transient, yeah.
volunteer. So
Exactly.
transient's a better word, yes.
Yep. I will mention, though, that there was a lot of discussion about the partnership that Rocky Hill Fire, for example, and police perhaps have with the Hartford Fire Department. And Hartford Fire Department has a CERT program, a Community Emergency Response Team. And there was some discussion about maybe, setting something like that up in town here, which is a natural conduit. They're not firemen, or they're not but they're part of that, which can lead to fostering that culture of volunteerism in the community. And I will say you have an excellent COG, the Council of Governments, with some really sharp people. There was a gal that joined us at the workshop, and they were nothing but resources. So I'd encourage you to connect with them around that topic, because they're thinking regionally there might be some advantageous thinking that might benefit Rocky Hill.
Great.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to bounce back up to subcommittee reports, finance.
The Finance Committee did meet on November 14th. We had a couple of items. Taking a little bit of a new approach on delinquent property taxes, and this is specifically related to personal property. The town's made the efforts to send out delinquency notices.
That's motor vehicle focus?
Motor vehicle, I thought, was going to the, we moved to the new agenda.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This is the personal property, am I right?
Yep. Go.
Okay. Am I wrong?
No. Keep going.
Okay. Bill, do I have it right?
I think so. Just clarifying that your personal property in this context is very misleading because it really means.
It's business property.
Right, business
Correct.
equipment, yeah.
Yes. So the town's made some efforts to collect it through delinquency notices, demand notices, phone calls, UCC filings, and the town's gonna take the next step of the tax collector actually going out to delinquent businesses and trying to collect these. And if those attempts don't work, we'll be utilizing the state marshal to try to collect those as well. And note, these are businesses, so if some of these businesses have permits, such as a health permit, the health department will be able to withdraw or suspend their permit.
Do you have a number of monetary that we're lacking?
I do. I will get it to you, Fran. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay.
But it's in our finance packet, the number of properties. I'll forward it to you.
Thanks.
Let's see. So we did move to the new business section, tax serve and CROG. Tax serve is for the collection on motor vehicles, and CROG is looking at our electricity rates. We have a proposal there. The town did complete their bond sale, and this is related to the 2019 road work approval. So our bonding went out, and it was 3.55%. As part of that bonding package, we did receive $229,000 premium. $58,000 will be used towards our issuance costs, and $171,000 will be used towards the first-year interest on the project. On the special revenue account, we did look at the CDBC Small Cities funds. They're still sitting idle. We're hoping by the next finance meeting or two, we'll have a direction on if we could use those funds. In the Industrial Park Development Fund, at our next finance meeting, we'll probably receive a proposal to move those funds out of special revenue and into the non-reoccurring account. And the other account that came up for conversation, the Town Clerk Fund, has been slowly growing over time. There's over $100,000 in that account. has to be used for town clerk-related expenses. So there may be an opportunity in the next budget cycle to utilize some of those funds in our budget planning. There was very little activity in our reserve for capital and non-reoccurring expenses. And under our state aid for the municipalities, the state won't be funding our municipal revenue sharing grant aid, which will cost Rocky Hill $221,000. So we will reach out to our state representatives and see if there's anything that can be done. But it's not just Rocky Hill. All the towns that are receiving these funds won't be getting them this year. The next finance meeting is December 12th at 6 p.m.
Did they explain why, Mona, we're not getting them?
So we did receive an email from the OPM, and their explanation was that the budgeted amount for sales tax was greater than the actuals, and for that reason, they don't have the funds available.
For any town in Connecticut?
Correct.
Imagine that.
They really didn't specify any town. They said, the letter, the way I read it, I don't think it's every town. That's what I want to make sure. I want to get clarification on that.
Okay. Thank you. Government ops? Anybody?
No meeting.
Anybody from GOPS? Okay, thank you. Public safety?
Yes, Public Safety did meet earlier today, and I have a small PowerPoint which can go up right about now, if we are ready.
No screen. They're over here on the TVs.
Oh, no, they're up there, right? All right, so, I do have it on my screen too, so it's totally fine. We can, so we'll start with fire, and the fire numbers have been going up and recently, and last month, according to our fire chief, Chief Gary, October was one of the busiest months ever, quote from him, and there were 84 incidents that they responded to, and some of it we discussed in the committee, like some of the reasons for that. We do see a corresponding increase on the ambulance side in these incidents as well. So there must be there are some theories we discussed, some hypotheses, but something to look into and keep track of as we want to prepare for out years. And so that's where we are on that. Other than that, on the fire side, recruiting and hiring and retraining remains a big focus. And as you probably see on your social media, they're a constant presence. They're trying to recruit more volunteers to the conversation we just had, piggybacking on that. So it is a concern, but I think the fire department is making every effort. So going to the next slide, actually, the next slide just drills down into like I-91. And I-91, if you look at where we are now, like there were like 7.5 incidents a month. This is through October, so close to 7.5, right? But we are trending more closer to 23 than 22, which is good, but you never know. So this is what it looks like right now. It's 83 through the year to date, but I think if you look at the past 2 years, we'll end up like somewhere around 90 probably. So just to keep track of that, I think we'll have numbers next. I think we have to wait 2 months actually, so we have to wait till January for the December number. So just moving to the next one. The good news is we are billing the state for this. It's still a problem. It's still a hazard. It's still a burden, if you will, on our fire department. But this I-91 remains an issue. That's all I wanted to call out. Moving to the next slide. The total incidents, they are tracking. Again, through the year, if you look at that number for the rescue, that number, all these numbers, if you look at like, you just, compare the bars, what you will see is like through today, some of those numbers are comparable to like last year already, right? And we are still like 3 months of data, two more months of data to go. So that's what I was talking about. I was saying like they are increasing. They're not reflected here yet because we don't have the end of the year data. What you see in the 2023 is like through the year, right? But anyways, I just wanted to like kind of shine a light on that this is occurring on all our like, services, essentially, like fire, police. Police is much more under control, but fire and ambulance definitely is trending on the higher side. I think the number was 17% or something, I think Bill mentioned, if I'm not wrong. So moving on to the next slide, moving to ambulance. Ambulance, like I already mentioned some of the numbers there, but just wanted to call out, like they had a ceremony for celebrating the life of Chief Joe Greb, like who passed away a few years ago. And that was one of the things mentioned. I think they have a couple of new programs where they're trying to bring in more people, again, for as volunteers. So I think they're trying to do their best in terms of recruiting and retention. Moving on to the next slide, Aetna is also puts together a summary of their data. But what I wanted to point out, just moving to the next slide after this, yes, this slide, I generally don't go into these slides in detail. The reason I'm bringing this up is I wanted to like shine a light on the work the Rock Hill Volunteer Ambulance and Aetna have done together in the last 1 year. They are consolidating their data, which you can see on this chart. So we are able to trend this data, which is a combined data set. You would think that this data set would have been combined already, but this data used to be separate. It used to be reported separately. It still exists separately, but it used to be reported separately. Aetna used to report it, and then Volunteer Ambulance used to report it, their numbers. And it was very hard to actually get an arm around like what was actually happening because we are looking at two data sets separately. This has been a work in progress since, I would say, 2023. And it is finally coming to fruition. Like mid of 2023, we started this project. And finally, since last couple of months, we have been starting to report this consolidated data, which out there is no big deal. But here, it really is, because the amount of work it took to get to a point where we can actually do this took a considerable amount of alignment and effort. So I just want to call that out, all the great work that Aetna and Rock Hill Volunteer Ambulance is doing at the back end to produce this data. Moving on to the next slide, similar, again, similar view, a consolidated view. I will talk about this more in the December meeting. We'll have kind of a year in review. But I just wanted to kind of bring a teaser, if you will, to the council and show like what we have been doing on that side of the committee work. And again, this might not be a big deal in the private sector or out there in the real world, but this is a big deal here when we talk about the council, the Public Safety Committee, and all the reporting we do here. So again, like I want to thank everyone who is part of this and doing all the great work behind the scenes. Moving on to the next slide. PD had, again, like I said, like the PD numbers actually have been down, but pretty consistent in terms of calls for service throughout the year. And they have been also tracking the stops, and they have been also tracking a new metric, which is attempted stops, which essentially goes to the idea of the vehicles that got away, right? And I think it does tell you a little bit about like what a no chase policy is reflected or manifests itself in terms of a data set, right, or a data point, right? So that's what we are trying to track with that new metric. It was Chief Klett's idea, and again, later like a few ideas we discussed in terms of like what should we be tracking versus what we should not be tracking. Like the catalytic converter thefts have gone down drastically to the point where there are no catalytic converter thefts anymore. So it does not make sense to keep track of that in terms of like, it's great news, by the way. So we have stopped tracking that, and in lieu of that, we replace that metric with this new metric. But I just want to call out, it's not on the slide, but I just want to call out something which we have been like looking at proactively in terms of metrics, and Chief Klett has been looking at to kind of track metrics that will make sense, right? Not just do it because we have been doing this for 2 years. Just keep tracking catalytic converters because we have been. It does not make sense, we take it out. Anyways, moving on to the last item, and this is not on the slide too, and I just wanted to actually give a big shout out to Officer Will Jordan, who was on Wheel of Fortune, and he's a national celebrity and a late night favorite, and a podcast favorite, as well as a sports show host favorite. Like, I mean, I can't, I can go on. I don't know, he's got like some kind of like, I don't know, 10 million views on YouTube or something, which is great. And I only bring it up in context of like how proud we are as a public safety committee to have one of our own out there on national television repping us. So a big shout out to Will and to the Rock Hill PD. And one last thing, last but not the least, Will Jordan raised, I don't know, close to $2,000. I don't have the exact numbers, but for Rock Hill Human Services Department for that game show night. So there was a gathering where they had a raffle and they raised that money for the Rock Hill Human Services. So again, we are very proud of that for that community policing part of it, and how all the officers are repping us there out there. So thank you again to the PD. And yes. All right, thank you. That was the report. Thank you.
Senior Liaison.
Senior Liaison did meet on October 28th. Our senior programs, I mean, the list is lengthy of all the different programs and activities. Our senior community center is being well used. Our senior lunch program is very active. Now it's up to a capacity of 130 for special lunches. So great to see we built it and it is being used. They did do a survey of members and got a lot of positive results back, and they put some changes in based upon it. The one challenge we still have, and we knew when we built the senior community center, is there wasn't going to be enough parking. And that has been highlighted in the survey. But, you know, great positive stuff to report. Human Services also has a lot going on. Fortunate in this town, we have a program. Anybody that is home alone for the holidays, Thanksgiving's coming up, can reach out to Human Services. No questions asked, and they'll provide a meal. So reach out to Human Services if you're home alone or in need, and the same will happen around Christmas time. They're also running a program for our deployed military, where they do the military boxes. So again, you can reach out to Human Services, contribute to a box, decorate it. Handwritten letters are what they said are most appreciated within those boxes for those that are away from home at this time of year. Our next meeting is January 27th.
Land Acquisition and Farmland Preservation.
No report on next meeting, November 26th.
Liaison to the State Rep and the State Senator. He is not here. School Liaison.
No report tonight, thank you.
Capital Improvements.
Our next meeting is scheduled tentatively for December 4th, because our meeting was scheduled for the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So that won't be, that's going to be canceled and rescheduled.
That's at 5, I believe.
I think it's at 5 o'clock, yes.
Economic Development.
We have not met.
Okay. Going to Old Business, we don't have any. We will do our consent agenda.
There's nothing on the,
There is nothing there. And we will do new business B, discussion possible action town unity statement. Do you want to say anything? No. Okay, so everyone has their town unity statement in their packet, correct? And everybody had an opportunity to look at it? Okay. Do you want to put a motion so we can chit-chat about it? Anybody?
Move to approve the town unity statement.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Were there some drafted changes to the statement as presented?
Okay. I'm going to find it momentarily. So I have in my notes, with respect to second paragraph, that the second paragraph read as follows: we commit to reflect on our history, progress over time, and position Rocky Hill to create a future with an equitable quality of life for all. Anyone want to make an amendment, recommendation, or any comments?
Move to amend the motion to reflect the proposed revision that was suggested by the mayor.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Any discussion at all? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Thank you. Moving to executive session? No? No.
Consent agenda items.
Consent agenda items.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
New business A and B.
Okay. That's what it is. Thank you. So we're going to do new business approval, resolution, tax collection contract first.
So I'm going to first off apologize for jumping in ahead of Councilor Greenspan. I was excited about motor vehicle, which is this agenda item. So, yes, this agenda item is about doing something different for tax collection for motor vehicle. Pardon me? Yes, for delinquents. So this is an agenda item that is requesting that we have a contract for 1 year with TaxServe, who's on the state bid, which is reflected in the resolution. Presently, and we've gone back, and talked about what can we do differently. We've got a wonderful collection rate. We're over 99% as it is. But as we're looking at the motor vehicles in particular, especially with the new renewing your registration and the couple years elapsed between, we don't want to fall behind. So we looked at a few years back to see what the collections are, and we're starting to have it accumulate. In fact, if we looked at the total dollar amount, going back to 2009, as you know, every 3 years, we take a dollar amount and we put it into the suspense. Doesn't mean we can't collect it. So if we take suspense and current years, we've got over $2 million of potential collections for motor vehicle alone. We have, with this particular vendor that we're making the resolution for, they have over 80 cities and towns already that are doing collections. They get their fee paid by the taxpayer. So we'll have the total, if you owe $100, they're going to charge us $15 directly to the delinquent tax bill, so no cost to the town. Also, we have checked with some neighboring towns around our size to see what the results are, and I'd say without naming towns, but they average about $200,000 per year in taking this effort of doing the collections. When we send out our motor vehicle bills, we send out the bill. Next step, we send out a demand. And the next step, we send out the intent to lien. what that last document says is, after this document, you're going to have a collection agency or some follow-up from the tax collector. And we haven't done that for a number of years. So this resolution is proposing that we do take that effort and make our one-year contract with TaxServe, who is on the state contract for our motor vehicle taxes only.
Okay.
So I'll just follow. This came to finance, and we thought that it would may have some questions from the council. So we said we'd move it off the consent agenda, put it under new business. With that, I guess I'll make a resolution or a motion to approve the resolution in our package to award a one-year contract with TaxServe Capital LLC of West Hartford to assist with the collection of delinquent motor vehicle taxes.
I second.
Any discussion?
I have a discussion about the collection part or just the motion?
Collection.
Whatever is on the table, you can talk about.
Just, we, Mona, we collect about 200,000, or the other towns did. Do you know, did they have a $2 million debt or more? Do you know the percentage?
Actually, that debt was, for them, was less, because they have taken this, this process on a yearly basis. So this is looking at each year when they just send that out. To the fact that we've got some suspense accumulated, there's quite a good chance that we'd be greater than that.
Okay, thank you. So,
I have a question. Did you have a question? You look pensive. No. Aside from this meeting, which probably no one's really watching, and then, the letter that's going to go out to the taxpayers, is there going to be a little bit of a warning on the website or something that just says, hey, we really are changing our process and we really are going to
Yes,
come
we would
after you?
put something on the website.
Something like that.
I think-
All
More
the social
polite.
media.
Okay, yeah, thank you. All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Moving on to old business B, discussion, possible action. Oh, no, I'm totally messed up here. We did that. We are moving,
Krog Energy Consortium.
Krog. Where am I, Krog? How am I messed up like this?
Under consent item.
Sorry, okay. Our Krog Energy Consortium resolution.
Yes.
Okay.
Who's starting first? Alan or Mona?
I'll tell you why it's here. How's that?
That's fair.
So this came before the Finance Committee. They came with a rate of 0.09603 kilowatt hours by using BP Energy versus Eversource. But to be honest, that number just didn't mean anything to the Finance Committee without putting it into relation to how many kilowatts we use, what the cost savings is. This is a 4-year agreement, and we just didn't feel we had the expertise to make a decision as a Finance Committee, so we asked to get the information from Krog and present it here before the council so we can make that decision.
So, in following up, Krog actually just wanted to point out that the current Eversource rate as of January 1st is 11 cents. So we've got, let me see, what do I have for information? So a background on the consortium. Again, we went out and we did the Titan Energy was the experts that Krog had identified to do this. They had their reverse auction bid, and the 9603 came out to be the best rate for towns. We've got over 14 towns and some regional, I think the Connecticut Transit District and so forth participated. Backdrop history. I went back to 22, and again, with Eversource, they bill on a calendar year. Of course, we're used to a fiscal year budget, but what they have had from 22, the rate going from 0.896 and then throughout the year went to a 9.977. So on an average for 22, we had 9.4 cents. I'm going to get it, 0.94. In 2023, it went up to 0.15 and then downward to 0.10. So on an average of about 13 cents. For 24, again, starts up high and went downward. So we're looking at about 10 cents for the 24 year. The lock-in of 96 cents is obviously lower than those last few years. And we are starting the January year, which for them will be the new Eversource year, at 11 cents. So I think to locking in at the 96.03, obviously, is whether we stay at 96.03 locked in for the entire 4 years, then the difference would be, our other option would be to go with the float, and we know we'll have at least starting with the first half of the year at 11 cents. So I think if we didn't go with the recommendation for the average, then we would, I guess, have to have the expectation that Eversource would drop their rate down to 8 cents next year to make an average moving forward. So I know initially when we were looking at these rates, and it was with CROG going through, and it was at 9.6, and I think we were presently today, or the day of the resolution, was at 9.5. Not much of a difference, and the calculation was minimal. Now that we know it's going to be 11 cents for January, just got that news over the weekend from CROG. Definitely the difference in that, we're talking about kilowatt hour only. So as you know, your electric bill has a lot more to it than a kilowatt hour. Dollar impact of if we stayed at the 11 cents for the next 4 years, I don't know if that will happen, but you're talking budget dollar-wise would be about $60,000 to $70,000 difference.
Over 4 years or 1 year per year?
Per year.
That's the difference between the 9.6 cents that were proposed to lock in and 11 cents?
And if 11 cents stayed solid for 1 year, correct?
So right now, that's the savings. If we were to stay at 11 cents, that's the savings we're talking about. If we were to drop.
Correct, if we went with the 9.6 4-year contract.
It says 60,000 a year.
Correct.
Is there any breaking that contract? Can you get out 2 years in with some notice?
I don't know. Are you sure?
Repayment penalty, I think, is what.
There probably is a penalty afterwards.
Yeah, there's no out clause specified.
Mona, is this like all in? All in as in like, this is your bill? Kind of like.
It is going to be the
Or
supplier
yeah.
kilowatt hour rate only. You'll still have all of those additional fees and some of these other things that we can't avoid, and the terrible, public fee that everybody is dreading. We'll still have that on top.
This is just the generation component, not transmission and everything else.
Correct, yes.
So
And,
we are assuming everything else is comparable.
Correct,
to-
right. Yeah, we can't control that
Everything
piece.
else is consistent. not
Consistent and comparable, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So why is the public benefit part of that?
It is not.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry, I
no,
thought
no,
you
no.
just said everything would stay the same.
No,
No, everything but the kilowatt hour.
Right.
Per
Yeah,
kilowatt
it's-
hour.
This contract doesn't affect any of that,
No,
basically. This is
not
just
at
the
all.
generation component of the bill.
Generation component.
This has to be a 4-year.
Correct.
Mona, what's the current Eversource rate, the July to now?
The July through now it actually changed, which was kind of unusual. So we had 3 months at 8.7, and then since September, which we haven't, looking back, at least went up to 9.57. So we're actually right now, as of today, about 0.03 of a cent difference.
It's kind of like when Mira said, hey, do you want to float it? Remember that? You want to write it? What can go wrong?
That is what we're looking at, is do we?
Yeah. Yeah. Is it contingent upon a certain number of municipalities signing on?
Well, they went through and asked, you know, who was interested, and as I said, they ended up having the 14 towns, and I think I said some large, I think it was the transit district was pretty large. So I think with that, they had a reverse auction and said, these are the number of kilowatt hours, what kind of rates would the various companies offer? There was about 6 different vendors that offered, and it was BP that came out on the low.
Mona, can you think of any potential downside to doing this?
Well, and I think
Because you are the expert.
we've all said that, and I said I would never profess to be an energy expert, but the fact that CROG went out and had the energy expert, I said this is something that I just as a finance person wouldn't have done it in isolation, but having that CROG did that and they went through and with the group, I would hope it's a good. It's a good offer. We had done a CROG energy auction in the past, around 2019, and just picked out 2 or 3 buildings and watched that, and it worked out very well. And unfortunately, it was just for a couple buildings.
We also did one, I think, in 2014 for 3 years, also with CROG.
Mm-hmm.
How did that work out?
Yeah, then I'm thinking the kilowatt hour charge was like 7 cents at that time. And I don't know the numbers, but it was beneficial.
It was,
I don't know how
yeah.
beneficial, but maybe you have the numbers. But
Yeah, I think that's the one that went from like 2019 to 23 for a few buildings, and that was at 7.3 cents at the time. And as you can see, we well went over that in the first year.
And Mona, we did ask it at the finance meeting, this will not impact any of our solar credits that we
No.
already have, so those will be still available to us.
Correct, and we confirmed that before even thinking about, you know, putting the hat in the ring.
Mona, you mentioned 0.87 between July and September. Was that the number?
Mm-hmm.
So it was actually lower than the 0.96.
Yes, and they have that tendency to do the, you know, by looking back historically, is that they'll do a January to June and then like take a dip and then go back upwards from one. So I'm not sure what year around the COVID time it actually did the reverse. So they were actually down and then brought it upward. I imagine that was the post-COVID just to catch up.
So how frequent do they typically reset, Mona?
It's usually twice a year, that seems to be. And like I
Okay.
said, the fact that this year we had a September change was concerning, and then to do the January so close.
So it's usually July and
This is
January
different.
only? And then they
Well, it'd be January and then run until they decide to change. Ideally, this should be the January to June that we're hearing about, the 11 cents, January 25.
But isn't it all subject to approval? I mean, they can only request changes, that they need government approval for any of those changes, right?
Eversource?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, they've got to go through PURA on that.
right. So, okay, so this reset, doing it, changing it every 3 months rather than twice a year norm is something that they had to get approval to do.
Yeah.
Well, that was an oddity, that 3 month, right?
It's the first that I saw looking back, yeah.
How many years?
I've gone back at least 3 from this year to see what was there.
Did I could be convoluting, commingling 2 situations, but what was that non-prime and prime usage?
I can't answer that.
Jeff Levine had
Oh,
spoken about.
was that the bonding issue?
No, that's related, you could, high periods of
Yeah,
energy
when
and
we were
low,
using-
but I don't know enough about it.
Oh,
other
well,
than-
the peak and non-peak.
Peak and off-peak.
Peak, I'm sorry, peak and non-peak.
Talking about peak
thought
and
I
off,
said non-prime.
peak and
I don't know.
off-peak?
Yeah, that's,
and off-peak.
what was that talked about? I thought that was about usage.
That was
Yeah.
day versus night, I thought, right?
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
but
Running
you would
your
get,
dishwasher
if you
3
use
a.m.,
more at night.
Doing your
or
dishwasher, doing your
off-peak.
ironing, whatever, yeah, off-peak.
I mean, assuming that CROG already,
But why is it
sorry,
not available to us?
I didn't realize. Assuming that CROG did like the due diligence and the legwork on this, I mean, still, the only question I have is like, have you seen any historical patterns where it was below 0.09603?
It's in the
The
past
last,
3 or
I don't
4
know.
years.
Yeah, 5 years.
It was,
No, I for a consistent period of time, like not just like a. blip.
Right, yeah, so I said in January of '22, it was at an 896. And then this year, for the July through September, or actually it'd be July through August, because it changed on September 1, it went to 877. So, yeah, so again, so even, I think if we did the 9.6, and we start January with 11, and it took that 6-month dip, it would have to dip below 8.5 cents in order for us to have made a bad choice.
Right, that's what I was trying to get at. What is the floor of that? Like where
Yeah.
we are in the red.
6 months at 11, and 6, 8.5 would bring you around that 9.6.
So it was lower during the summer months? That was the dip? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. That's peak usage.
Energy market.
I mean, all I can say is we actually pulled bills, and this is as real as it is.
Mona, does CROG give you any charting of where they anticipate rates going for the next 4 years?
No, they would not do that. They would not do that.
As a percentage of increase, or, I'm not asking for the rate, but
No. They did predict that it was going to change to 11 cents, and as we are here today, that's exactly what happened. But doing future, they would not do that.
I mean, I think the benefit is that you have some stability.
Absolutely.
Predictability.
Predictability where if there's an issue of some kind and you could get a spike to 15, I mean, we don't know. We don't know the future, so it gives you stability.
Right, yep.
I agree.
Yeah, and a $100 million budget, it is a benefit to have predictability.
Yeah. No, I think that's a big one, and looks. I mean, assuming that we have had very few periods of that dip, right, and it has not been sustained, right, dip. It goes right back up. So, I mean, I'm tending towards like having like this expert opinion which CROG gives us. I mean, that's what I'll go by. I would rather believe them than, and my instincts are also similar, but at least they have something to back it up.
I agree. That's why I really thought that this would, if we're going to take that approach, I think having CROG and running it and doing it with the dollar volume would definitely be the best price that's out there for us.
Right.
So assuming we are 1.4 lower, what does that equate in kilowatt hours? And then have you equated that into dollar amount? Like if we're talking about stability for the budget, are we talking, since that's only like 25% of our bill, or 30%, I don't even know what it is, but what does that equate to?
As I was saying, that's around, if we did not and we continued to float and it floated at 11 cents straight next year, you could look at it around a $50,000, $60,000 difference.
So that's 12 months.
Correct.
So 1.4 cents per kilowatt hour translates to $50,000 or $60,000. So
On
if
the
it dipped down to 8.2, then we'd be losing 50 or 60,000.
Correct.
8.2
But it would have
probably
to,
is a stretch.
yeah. Actually,
I mean,
if
that's the
it's-
thing. It seems
Yeah.
to me that the risk of this,
Yeah.
of getting the short end of this is probably pretty low. Just assuming an overall trend line that prices are going to go up.
And a byproduct is predictability.
Right.
well, I'll make a motion to authorize the town manager to enter into a 4-year electricity purchase agreement with BP Energy as the selected electricity supplier for the town of Rocky Hill. Starting in January 2025, the town will be paying .09603 per kilowatt hour for electricity for town buildings.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any abstentions? Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Now, we are going into executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 210, subsection B, subsection 4, to discuss legal opinion regarding potential claim with Town Attorney Richard Roberts, the Town Manager, Director of Finance and Operations, and Director of Human Resources and Legal Compliance.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. All right, everyone, we are coming back from executive session, and we are on that section of the agenda, which is the mayor's report. So, well, we have some good news. As you know, Rudy's Restaurant, which we all loved for many years, closed shop about 4 months ago. But a new pair of restaurateurs are opening a restaurant called Allegro, so we're super excited about that. We had a really cool event, a unity event. It was sponsored by an organization called For All Ages. And you may recall that they make these paper lanterns, which are really very pretty, and they have people in the community decorate them. And I don't know if there was something like 500. It was this huge number of lanterns, and volunteers from our community lined our town campus, and they were lit at dusk. And a lot of our departments participated by providing activities for families and their children. And I'll tell you, it was such a big success. And so many people came up to me and said, we have to continue to do this every year. And it was really nice to see families and children just coming out. People actually were in the Historical Society, and the folks from the Historical Society were so excited to have visitors. It was just really cool to see. I didn't anticipate it was going to be as successful as it was. So I want to thank that company for including Rocky Hill. Speaking of thanks, I want to thank Director Gina Marino, who's always thinking outside of the box. She has a new initiative called Cups for Change. So if you bring your travel mug to the senior center and use it at the coffee bar or at the senior lunches, in lieu of using our paper cups, we're actually saving the environment, and it's also helping our budget. So it's these little things that will have a big impact over time. So I want to thank her for always thinking outside the box. Councillor Prakash talked about SRO Jordan, so I'm going to skip that. We had an incredible Veterans Day. It was a gorgeous morning. We had a beautiful ceremony on the town green, and then a special luncheon. I want to thank everyone who helped, and a special thanks to Deputy Commissioner Joe Dineo from the Department of Veteran Affairs, who joined us. November 20th is the deadline to order your Thanksgiving pies from the Dream Cafe. So you know the Dream Cafe is where we have our new Transition Academy, and our students are there cooking and baking for you, making delicious coffee and all kinds of breakfast and lunch items. So if you are not interested in adding to your cooking load next week and you want to support our students, they have apple pie, pumpkin pie, and chocolate cream, and you can get a regular pie or you can actually get gluten-free. So please give them a shout and a call by the 20th. Oh, we had our annual Great Pumpkin Smash. It was, I think, the third year that volunteers put that together in our Rocky Hill Human Youth and Senior Services, and it was a lot of fun. It was actually very therapeutic to smash them with a giant axe, and but it was also good for composting. So I look forward to next year. And then finally, we are gearing up for a new legislative session. As you know, I'm on the CCM Public Safety, Public Health and Human Services Committee, and I was recently asked to join CROG's policy board. So big on our talking points is addressing, like we always do through CCM and costs, the unfunded and underfunded mandates that are coming from the state, because we know they have a negative and disparate impact on our budget. They unfairly burden our local taxpayers, and we hear everybody, irrespective of party affiliation, irrespective of where they sit in the state or in local government, talk about how we have this antiquated property tax, regressive properties tax system that we rely upon to build our revenue, and we have to stop doing that, but we don't ever stop doing that. So I'm going to make sure again this year that we have a seat at the table. I've come up with some solutions that I'm putting out there through our legislative policy subcommittees, and we're going to be voting on some of those shortly, so I'll keep you posted. And then finally, my 2-year term is up on the governor's OSAC committee, which is the Opioid Settlement Advisory Council or committee, but he has offered to appoint me for another 2 years. So I'm super excited to stay on that. And that's it. To you, Mr. Town Manager.
Town Manager's report. I'm going to, you all have my memo. It's on the website, and so I'm just going to kind of breeze through some of the items here. The RFP for the Plan of Conservation and Development, that went out to bid, but we did not get any bidders. So Kim Ritchie and I and others are looking at reworking either the RFP and also considering some alternative approaches, such as utilizing the resiliency plan, affordable housing plan that we have, the complete streets, and a number of other items that we can actually do a lot in-house for less cost. Maybe just RFP out for like the production part of it. So that's what we're looking at. You know, the library saw quite a few participants in their programs, over 2,900 of them that they hosted just in October. Human Services, their main events, they participated in Fall Fest in the annual CYSA conference, Red Ribbon, Medicare open enrollment, and the drug take-back program that they participate in yearly. Also Adopt a Family and Stuff a Truck program. And so they're very busy. They're also, as was mentioned, I think earlier, the Veterans Boxes Project, the deployment boxes, is all the boxes in Town Hall had to be submitted by Friday. So if you go to the Human Services Department and go into, I think it's Activity Room 4, if you can fit, there's a little bit of oxygen left, but the boxes are just piled. So it's very successful, very popular program. Dana McGee, Director of Human Resources and Legal Compliance, partnered with a professional executive coach, and they designed and ran a department head leadership development program called Mastering Leadership with a Twist. The twist was really, we analyzed Despicable Me and the behavior that, what's the lead character's name? Gru. His behavior and how it changed and evolved and how he, became how he became, and very interesting. It was very well attended. It was good participation. I'm proud of them. As you can see, the Finance Department, Mona, we completed the $6 million bond sale last month, as you know. Standard & Poor's gave us some recognition for implementing revisions to our two-year reserves and fund balance practices. And currently, they're upgrading and streamlining financial system to improve the efficiency of scanning and uploading invoices to financial departments, which will help reduce paper. Just a quick blurb on the Rocky Hill Community Farm. UConn, the UConn School of Agriculture and Architectural Design completed their final draft, and the final draft of the farm plan. They actually did a plan on the entire 84 acres, as well as a very detailed analysis and recommendation for the community gardens. They will be presenting that plan to the Farmland Preservation Committee next week. And then they have invited us up to UConn, where their students will do a presentation in their class. I think it's a really comprehensive, very detailed plan, very interesting. I think they did a fantastic job. When the Farmland Committee reviews and approves it, it'll come back to the town council. Just a shout out to our Assistant Fire Marshal, Bill Kelly. He completed his certification and he graduated first in his class. Very impressive. Well done. Leaf collection is in full force now. Crews are working their way throughout town. They'll get to every neighborhood that they get to. Sometimes they get delayed, but they'll get there. They have a very methodical schedule that they work through. So it's on its way. Hopefully we don't have any snow in the next 3 or 4 weeks. But just a note that it's really important that when you rake the leaves to the curb, you don't put them in the road. And I know we have that on our website, and it goes out in flyers, so that's important. In an effort to continue and encourage our recycling efforts, we are about to start the process of changing over from our huge 94-gallon municipal waste barrels to the smaller 54-gallon carts. It's been noticed by our Director of Public Works and also our Superintendent of Highways that these larger barrels they have less waste in them now, and we are now recycling more. So we'll keep the large barrels for recycling and trying to, curb the waste going, recyclables going into the solid waste. So hopefully this will, start that process. It's an educational process. We'll do a video on this also. Representative Wood was successful in attaining a $175,000 grant to cover the cost to repair drainage at the Cedar Hollow condominium project. There was a study done last summer, and it was discovered that there was an undersized pipe, a portion of pipe on the condo property that was really causing a backup of water during heavy rainstorms, and that's why it kept flooding over the years. So that grant kind of went to us. So our Community Development Office is working on putting the paperwork together and getting the cost estimates together so we can go out to bid to get a contractor. It will be no cost to us. Whatever they can do for $175,000 will be done. I'm trying to speed through there. I see a lot of blank stares. A couple other things. A quick update on the sidewalks. We have some projects that are just hanging out there for a couple of years now, the sidewalks. The Washington Street sidewalks, that's a CIP component. Design is will finally begin in December and hopefully be complete by the year 25, by the end of the year. That's been out there for a while. That is a CIP, so we need to work on funding that if that's going to remain a priority. Washington Street sidewalks are really a way to get down to the riverfront to make the pedestrian connection to Main Street and the municipal campus down to the river. Elm Street and Glastonbury Avenue and Century Hills sidewalks Phase 2. Those are LOTSIP grant funds. Steve Sopelak has been dealing with CROG and DOT trying to find out where this grant money has been. Finally, it's been told that updates to the plans and specifications are to begin Monday, the 25th of November, and it should not take more than a week to complete those plans. It's sidewalks, so it isn't that complicated, hopefully by Thanksgiving. We do have to do appraisals because there is some right-of-way work on some of those curves, so that's going to take some time to get an appraisal to do appraisals of the takings or the grading rights or slope rights, whatever is needed. Glastonbury Avenue, another lots of grant program. Minor updates are required to be submitted, so they will be done November 21st and 22nd. So Steve is working on these plans right now. Century Hills Phase 2 is a steep grant. I just talked to our project engineer this morning. He finally told me that the designs have been submitted to steep for hopefully final approval. That was a $600,000 project to do half of the sidewalks on Century Hills Drive. And the lot SIP Phase 2 is do the other half of sidewalks. So concrete is very expensive now.
May I ask a question? Does that include crosswalks at Century Hills? Was there something with crosswalks?
We might have to do some mid-crosswalks on the new sidewalks because there are some drainage areas that are really low. We might have to build walls to get around that. Hopefully we can do like a mid-block crosswalk, pedestrian crossings. There are crosswalks that will connect the Century Hills sidewalks to Cold Springs. There are crosswalks across Cold Springs, so we'll be connecting those.
And does the drainage impact those pear trees that are lining that pretty road through Century Hills?
That was an area of concern. I'm hoping that we can save those trees. If we can't save them, then we will replant them.
Okay, thank you.
DOT, they're doing a few things. They are rebuilding District 1 headquarters, where the current materials lab is across from the Veterans Home on Brook Street. That's being demolished. And a new building of approximately 135,000 square feet will be built to house the new laboratory and headquarters, as well as District DOT maintenance facility on Cromwell Avenue. They own that area across from, kind of diagonally across from Brook Street. Those two facilities will be consolidated on the existing lab property on Brook Street. They are looking to start construction spring of 2025. And I don't know what they want to do with that existing maintenance facility on Cromwell Avenue. So that's something that I want to look into. Another DOT project, move quickly. DOT will be replacing all of their secondary road, state road signs, starting in October and be completed in May 2026. All the aluminum signs, they're going through the whole capital region, replacing those signs. So beware of, construction, along these streetways. They'll provide further notice as they ramp up. MDC, some households in town may have been receiving information, mailers from MDC regarding their lead and copper requirements and their program to look at the service lines from the street to the meter. They need to replace all of their lead and copper lines, so they'll be sending out mailers to those houses that they've identified where they currently have lead and copper service lines going into the property. So if you do get a mailer, it is real. Contact the information contact in those letters if you have questions. The same goes for MDC's implementation of their customer service charges that I guess they've had for a while, but they've never collected. There will now be a $9 fee for all sewer connections for each household per month. And if you have water and sewer, if you have multiple sewer connections, particularly for condominiums, it'll be $9 per connection. Again.
Monthly?
Pardon?
Monthly?
Monthly.
There's no fee for that now?
No. If you have questions, contact MDC. They have a direct line and also an email in the letter, so take them seriously. It's not a scam. Our Parks and Rec Department sent out a community interest survey. I'm sure some of you got the survey. That the results of that survey were finalized, and I imagine that Craig would like to come in and maybe do a quick presentation on the results of that survey. Just to give you an idea what the survey is. They were looking for feedback on identification of new recreational activities, improving existing programs and facilities, and allocation of resources effectively, and allocation of resources for certain programs, the pool, splash pad, that's all in that survey to get community feedback so we can plan appropriately, or at least plan better for our budget next year. That's all I have. I'm tired.
That was impressive, though. I mean, not for nothing, but I know it's late, but that's a lot of work and a lot of accomplishments, so I think that's pretty awesome. Thank you. Do you have sidewalk questions, Mr. O'Sullivan?
Not here, thank you.
Okay. All right.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.